Hello, everybody. First of all, apologies for the hair. I don't know what to do with it. I could try to cut it myself, but I'm not sure how you're sorting it out. Give me ideas. As you know, in Spain, we cannot go out even for a walk, and right now the barbershops are closed, obviously. So, solutions, please. Maybe I have to go to one of those, YouTube cut your hair kind of videos. In any case, hello and welcome to As Guillem for another week. Basically, the list of questions are getting bigger, and as I always say, they make me think a lot of those questions. Others have to do with rumors, and we're going to deal with as many as I can in the period that we've got. So the first one is from Alex Ionel. Says, do you think the league should be voided in order to ensure players are well rested for next season and the next season is not in jeopardy? Now, my thinking is, and that goes through all the leagues and all the divisions. First of all, you have to keep a balance between the safety of the players, so a situation that in which they can play, and the running of the clubs. Being a chairman myself, I realize that there are things that have to be done that players may not like, and everybody has got to help. So from that point of view, I really never understood why to prioritize next season when this season is played in a long percentage, 70, 80%. So I think we should be aiming to finish this season. I know things get complicated for different reasons. One of them is the end of the contracts on the 30th of June, and FIFA recommending that the contracts are extended. But how about if the players don't want to extend it? How about if they actually were waiting for the end of his contract to actually go to another club? So it will require everybody's agreement on that, and hasn't been reached. Also, the clubs need a huge percentage of money that hasn't arrived for television. That money for television, it involves different percentages of the budgets of each club. But say in the Premier League, in La Liga, it's a very important part of their budget. Now, in La Liga, for instance, they've been paid, the clubs, until the end of May, but they still need to receive 25% of what televisions were going to pay. Right now, what the right holders are not saying, one way or the other, is if they would still pay it. Generally, I think the impression everybody's got is that, of course, if there is no end of the season, if the season is void and null, that money won't be paid. And that will create a lot of problems. A lot of problems that go through things that people are starting to realize now. Renewal of contracts of young players, the impossibility of buying players, or not many, or not much, and creating a marketing which is going to be a swap of players more often than not. The lack of money coming through sponsorship or VIP boxes or gates, of course, in the case of Arsenal, that represents 25% of the money that comes in. So the consequences of everything that's happening are so huge that everybody's got to understand that, first of all, the end of the season or finishing the season will be the better option financially, but as long as the safety of the players is there. And secondly, you've got to consider that everybody's got to consider the situation has changed, the paradigm has changed, and everybody's got to help. BB Boy Serge is saying, is it a real possibility that people won't be able to watch games at the stadiums until January? To be honest, a lot of information are out there, some contrasting to others and not agreeing on same issues. So I'm not an expert, and I won't be able to answer that as an expert. My impression is, I have an opinion, is that it'll take a long while for stadiums to be full again. And it's all down to the vaccine. When are we going to get the vaccine? How far will it take? How long will it take for it to be distributed? And before that, there is always a risk. We don't know where we stand at the moment if by having had coronavirus, you will be immune and not get it again. We don't know. Information we're getting from Korea is that perhaps we will. In which case, I understand the herd immunity policy followed by Britain in one degree or another. And I understand that in Spain are saying that until the immunity or until 40% of the people in Spain haven't got haven't got contracted coronavirus until we reach that point, and we're not there yet, things won't look very normal. That could take, months. So the big congregation of people, it may take to next year. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Abdul Disease, Dr. Disease says, is Madrid interested in Sancho? We jump to other matters. Real Madrid, like all clubs, will be affected by this situation and won't have money available for big contracts. I think big fees. I think we are guaranteed of that. No chance of that happening. Now, what will happen, of course, is that they will put a target into something that will make them better and find the finances for it in the medium term. And that's, of course, Mbappe. That is the total priority. So Sancho is not part of the reckoning of the interest of Real Madrid right now, not at all. If Sancho leaves Borussia Dortmund, and it's not a given, as Borussia Dortmund wants to keep him, or either let him go for a figure that's 80, 90 million euros, unless somebody comes with that, and that will be in the Premier League, he won't go. So still a lot to decide, but the clubs that are better, financially better situated to actually be able to do those kind of deals, or at least 2 or 3 of those, over 60, 70 million, that will be in the Premier League, depending how long it takes for the league to start again. So it's too early to see if Manchester United, for instance, will make the effort to get Sancho. TBK is saying, who will Real Madrid definitely sign next season, if not Paul Pogba? I go back to the same. You cannot say definite at all. It's impossible. Paul Pogba was a target for Zidane, not so much for the club, and the money involved in that deal means that Real Madrid, I don't think they'll have Pogba as a priority. Paul Pogba has suggested both that he wants to go and that he wants to stay. So he's playing his cards. But at the moment, I do feel that a player like him will be better serviced to be at Manchester United, where he will be the leader. Physically, he'll be fit finally. And it seems like they are at least a stable club right now. There won't be changes. Solskjaer will stay. I know that the coaching staff at Manchester United feel that Pogba is a good leader. Perhaps not so much when things are going wrong, but when they are going right, and you got to hope for Manchester United fans anyway, that the finances being in the right place to at least be able to get a stable team, improve it with 2 or 3 players, will mean that he will have the chance to shine. It's not a good time to leave, I don't think. And I believe that they're going to convince him to stay with a new contract. But we'll have to see, because this is very early in the conversations on that department. And as I said, he's playing with all the possible cards. Foot Index GT is saying, any chance Neymar returns to Barcelona when the window reopens? Barcelona, if you look at the newspapers, like Sport, like Mundo Deportivo, I think a bit of the role that they do is to keep the show going. So basically trying to convince everybody that big things can happen. That's part of the deal of sports newspapers. Now, Lautaro Martinez and Neymar are targets. That's very, very clear. It's very obvious. There won't be money for both of them. Possibly, the Neymar deal will be so impossible financially that I don't think it will happen. Not this summer. We'll have to keep an eye on it, because I know that Bartomeu, in his last season, he wants to make a big impact and to leave a Barcelona that can compete for things. Hence, wanting Lautaro and wanting Neymar. The only possibility they can actually get either of those players, because I don't think both of them will be possible, is there is a swap of players. But you tend to do that with clubs that are friendly, as I said in previous weeks. Inter is friendly to Barcelona, PSG not so much. So that's what I think of this situation. Scott Blatchford is saying, will anyone reignite their interest in David De Gea this year? Always rumours flying around, but it's been quiet for a fair few months now, I would say even years. No, there's no intention to... nobody can pay what David De Gea is earning at Manchester United. I think that, as I said, players feel that things are a little bit more stable, that the club will improve because new players will come in, and it is a chance for Manchester United to fight for the Champions League. Remember, they could be in the Champions League next season if Manchester City cannot overturn the decision not to be in Europe. So it's a place to stay, Manchester United, right now. I don't think anybody wants to, of that caliber, wants to make a jump unless the circumstances and the money and everything is right. And as I said, there won't be huge amount of money being exchanged of hands. Maybe swap of players, but I don't think De Gea will be in that category. Ashkan is saying, what is going on in Barcelona? Will the election be brought forward? Seems like a complete mess over there. And it is. Two reasons for it. I think at the end of his mandate, Bartomeu has gathered a lot of power, a lot of authority, and perhaps basically didn't share some of the decisions with other people. As well as that, there is a financial situation. Barcelona are at the limit of the money they can spend, hence being the first club in Spain to go on furlough. So the government will pay some of the wages of 309, I think it is, non-football staff. The other percentage will be put by the club and by the players themselves, who have given 2% of their salaries to be able to pay the non-football staff. But to be the first one was a sign that, yes, they realized the enormity of what was going on, but also the fact that there is lack of liquidity at the club. Meanwhile, Bartomeu is committed, or wants the club to commit to a rebuilding of the area around the Camp Nou and also the Camp Nou itself. That's to a huge expense. I think that project will be abandoned. It won't be. There won't be time to decide it because he wants to do a referendum. As basically we know, there's going to be elections in 2021. New people may come in, and because in 2 or 3 years, or even more, we won't see the same amount of expenditure in the market as we've seen in recent years. Means that it will be all about making the club stable financially. So no big expenses. With all that in mind, with the lack of direction of the club, with a board that basically have backed the players up above anything else, you have a club not taking big decisions that they should, and they run the risk of actually having a few years like Manchester United. The post-Messi era could be really, really terrible unless people come in and do the kind of things that they have to do. Because remember, even though they bringing in €1 billion to the coffins, basically that money won't be so readily available in sponsorship and commercial deals as it has been in recent times. So they have to readjust the figures and the budgets. And remember, one thing that they can hardly touch is the wages of the players, which accounts for over 70% really terrible situation in terms of the finances, but also the lack of directness as well. A direction of the club suggests that they need a change, and that change will come when the elections arrive. And no, there won't be early elections. I think one or two candidates are ready for elections, but the club, the board, wants to make sure that they actually finish their time in charge without debts, because if there were debts, the board will have to pay them, in which case it will be really bad personal news for the directors. So a lot of things to sort out before the new elections, which will be in the summer. It'll be next, not this summer, summer after. In your opinion, who's more necessary for Barcelona, Lautaro or Neymar? Both are. If I had to choose one, I will go for Lautaro Martinez, just because we have to start thinking of, or Barcelona have to anyway, the end of Luis Suarez's era. Having said that, Neymar guarantees the continuation of a competitiveness that without Messi, when he retires in a couple of years or 3 years, then it will be difficult to find somebody to replace him. So I just contradicted myself. Thinking about it, I think Neymar, that's why he will cost much more, of course, will be more important to Barcelona. Because he guarantees goals, he guarantees, as I said, to use some of the, to help Messi run the team, and just generally to make Barcelona still competitive. But they will suffer, Barcelona, like every team that seems to have reached their end. A little bit, Manchester City are a little bit like that as well. They needed to renew the squad, especially the lineup. Barcelona needs to do that, but they won't be able to do it. So maybe it'll be a time to finally look down into the players that are on loan and the young players and give them opportunities. Quique Setién, I'm sure who will stay, will be happy to do that. A couple more. Pochettino to Manchester United. Is there any chance of this happening? That's asked by Kasumba Jovan. Considering Solskjaer is in a strong position at the moment. No chance of that happening. Solskjaer will stay. I think Tuchel stays at PSG. Obviously, Flink will stay at Bayern Munich. Zidane at Real Madrid. There won't be changes on the bench. It's not time to change anything. It's it's a time to stable the situation, to improve what they have, and that will be the key for next season. Nobody really knows how players will react to coming back to the game, having had perhaps relatives that have been affected by it, being shocked psychologically by the whole circumstances, having to play behind closed doors. A lot of things that we don't know how people are going to react to. But what's important is that leadership is strong, that they are respected by most people, and generally that you have a face that people recognize. No changes at this stage. That means Pochettino is going to have to wait for his chance to go to one of the top benches in Europe. How can Pep solve the defensive problem at City with 2-year transfer ban looming? Well, basically improving the players, which is his passion anyway. Pep Guardiola wants to get the players to do what they can do and maximize their potential, even offer more than the players themselves want to. But I saw a tired Manchester City, one that they had identified quite clearly that they need 4 new players in the lineup. So it's going to be important to do swaps. They've got players of quality. They have to take risks, perhaps, because I think they will want to bring new faces. And if that's the case, with or without Europe, it'll have to be players that will have to adapt. It'll take a while to adapt, as they always do with a team of Pep Guardiola. So it will be a matter of, like with everybody else, as I say, there won't be big expenditure. It'll be a matter of keeping everybody as good as they have been, improving them. And at Manchester City, that's going to be important because it felt like the team was tired, perhaps mentally. Perhaps they needed a new challenge. Perhaps this rest has helped those players to actually get better, or at least be better ready, better prepared for what's coming up. It's going to be about improving what you've got. And one thing that Pep Guardiola does is exactly that. So that's this week's Ask Guillem. There will be more next week. Meanwhile, keep safe, stay home, and ring somebody you haven't run for a long while. That's very healthy. See you later. Bye.